at the age of 24. I don't know what I was doing at 24. I was probably just doing an average job. So yeah, well done. And one of the things that I also like about real estate is you touch everyone's life, right? Because everyone wants to buy, whether they have one or not, they wants to buy a property, right? For investment, to live in, whatever. And nothing could be more rewarding in terms of like personal achievements than having or getting the property that you want to get.
Exactly. And I forget it sometimes when I'm obviously work with this every single day, but like buying property is one of the biggest things someone does in their life.
Yep.
Getting married, having a child, buying a home.
Property.
That's it. That's like the three pinnacles of life.
Yeah. When I see it so many times, it just becomes in my head like, oh, Jack Henderson.
Well, when I started doing it wasn't meant to be that. I was in Europe and I was drinking every single day until I couldn't walk for 6 weeks. And I had this hat that I bought over there. And it was a wide brim hat that had flamingos on it. And then every day I'd get up, put this hat on, do an Instagram story on the piss saying it's Flamingo Mondays, Flamingo Tuesdays, Flamingo Wednesdays. And then I just come back to Australia and I didn't even know where I put the hat. I forgot all about it. And then one day I just found it. I was having a Sunday session, put the hat back on, did a video saying it's Flamingo Sundays, and everyone just went mad.
Everyone was like, yeah, this guy was born to be a flamingo.
And then it just like grew over time. And now literally I would get 1 to 2 people a day that would see like flamingo socks in a shop, or that see like a flamingo poster or whatever, like a mannequin. And they take a photo and they send it to me. So now it's a really good branding thing. And now I'm just going to run with it.
But you haven't been pushing it lately, or have you?
Yeah.
You have?
Yeah, I've been pushing it.
Just checking, making sure everything's working.
Everything's working.
Yep.
So, yeah, I've been pushing it.
Yep.
A lot.
So do you think this is something that you're gonna keep with you for quite some time, or maybe for forever?
Yeah, for sure.
You're very set on it.
Yeah, it's just it's a good branding tool. It's something that separates you. It makes you stand out, cut through. The purple cow effect by one of your Seth Godin.
Seth Godin.
There
Have you read his book?
Yeah.
He's a legend, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the way he looks at marketing is very different. Like everyone looks at marketing different. Gary Vee looks at it different. Seth Godin looks at it different.
He's very much fundamentals.
Yeah, and then you come back to Australia, but like John Gianna and people like that, everyone looks at marketing a little bit different. Some people look like completely like sales.
Yep.
And then some people are a lot more creative. But I think what I do is just a good branding exercise for sure.
Yep. So Henderson is your new company. They just literally started
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
How exciting.
It's good, man. It's happened really, really quickly, right? I've only been in this industry for 12 months, and it was literally almost 12 months to the day that I parted with the old brand and then started the new brand. So it's happened a lot quicker than I thought it was going to. Although I have been, personally branding myself in property now since I was 18 years old. Since I bought my first property, I've been doing podcasts and the magazine stuff and, constantly trying to get my face out there. So it feels like I've been doing it for a long time. But when you think about it, it's only been 12 months. Yeah,
I remember when I first started my own thing, it kind of felt surreal in a way, like, not having to, well, for you, it's kind of different because in a way you've worked for yourself for pretty much since you started, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. But you're still associated with a brand.
Yeah,
right?
So you still run your own business inside of a business. You're not getting paid a salary every single week. You're only getting paid
for what you do
when you do business. Yeah. So you're still running your own thing, but I guess working under a brand compared to running your own race completely is that you don't have that support, of going to an office and having people around you. Like you're essentially, I'm me and my other 3 or 4 employees, and that's us. And then we'll just grow from there. Yeah. So it's probably the best thing I've done, I reckon, for sure. Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's an amazing feeling, which not a lot of people get to feel in their life. It's like you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, and no
Yep.
one can tell you otherwise. And I've always had an issue with that. That was my issue with school. I didn't like to be told what to do, and I didn't like to be, I guess, told what I have to learn and how I have to learn it, which is how schools and curriculum works, right? You go to school, you listen to a teacher.
That could be a whole episode on its own, the schooling system and whatnot. But briefly, my take on when it comes to schools is you try to teach students and kids a bit of everything so that they can hopefully at some point decide, what they want to go for. But the problem is no one wants to know about everything, especially from from a young age. There's a few things that you like, and that's what you want to go into. What we try to do is we try to shove down on people or kids, a lot of different things, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, and I think the way the schooling system works is you get taught something and you memorize it, and then you go into a test.
Yeah.
And the whole memorizing thing is meant to obviously implant it into your brain.
Yeah.
But it's such an old-fashioned technique. Like, everything now is at our fingertips. You want to learn something, you Google it, and it's right there. So the idea of having to go and sit in school for 13 years of your life and memorize things doesn't
It's
really
a waste of time in a lot of ways.
I wouldn't say it's a waste of time completely. Of course, there's a lot of good attributes of school, but it needs to be changed. It needs to move with the times, like everything else in the world.
Yeah.
Not.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, studying something you don't like or you're not really into, in a way, is a waste of time. Of course, you have to learn about a lot of different things so that you can be someone in the community who can relate to people and understand, a bit about everything. But you've got to, I think one thing needs to happen at some point is recognizing from a young age what students and kids want and like, and try to push them into that direction more and more, and get them to focus more on that. And I think with online and digital, that can happen.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's with kids, it's hard because at 1 minute they like something, the next minute they like something else,
Yeah.
right? So it's very hard to say, hey, you like this, let's teach you about it.
Yeah.
But as you get older as a kid and move into your teenage years, you get more self-aware on what drives you, what doesn't drive you, what you think you're going to like in the future.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably a blessing for me when I jumped out of school at 15. I didn't have any more, influence from the schooling system from people I was, around. Like, most of my decisions then were made on my own back on what I wanted to learn. It was all through YouTube and, online, like you said.
Yeah.
You weren't surrounded by the schooling system, and then you get to year 11 and 12, and then it's like, oh, well, my friend's doing chemistry, so I'm going to do chemistry.
Yep.
And then you get a clouded
Did
view.
you like chemistry?
No, I didn't
You
even
hated it,
I didn't
I'm
do
sure.
chemistry. I
Okay.
dropped out of school in year 10. I didn't even finish
Nice.
year 10. And then that's what a lot of people do. They get to year 12, and then from year 12, they've got no idea what they want to do with their life. So they go, okay, these are the grades I got. These are the subjects I did. Now let's go choose a uni course that gives me 4 more years of not having to commit to life.
And further investments.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, life is an investment financially, but if you use it right, university can be the best investment in your life because you can get you into a career path that can be rewarding financially and rewarding emotionally. But a lot of people just go to university for 4 years, finish university, and go, well, I don't like that, so now it's 4 years of my life essentially down the drain.
You mentioned everything is pretty much right there on your phone, like any information. How about the fact, pretty sure you saw Elon Musk was talking about his company Neuralink, and how at some point, maybe in the next 5-6 years, you're going to have access to pretty much everything within your brain. So it's access to all the information out there. So what he's trying to do is integrate AI with the human brain through a chip, right? And they started with, it was pretty large. And then they started to make it smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, to a point where right now, I think last time he was talking about it, maybe a couple of months ago, It's very tiny that you can just open up a piece of this cup, put it, and then close up, and there you have it. You have a chip in your brain that kind of integrates. How crazy is that? So imagine at some point you just go to a meeting and you don't have to memorize everything you need to know. You can pull up information on the go and look up things and just use that information.
Yeah, I don't know if I like the idea of that.
How crazy is that? I mean, it hasn't been done, right? But this is the hypothetical use of it.
Well, I think it's taking us away from being human beings. Like, sure, this technology is fantastic, but it adds to us being human beings. It makes our lives better. I think putting something inside of your body is turning you into
a computer,
essentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, I don't know. I don't like to think about it. I won't be putting a chip into my brain.
Well, we're far from it, so you don't have to worry about that. Anyway, so for everyone watching, Jack Henderson, thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it. I've known Jack for quite a while, maybe a couple of years now. Jack is someone who knows a lot about real estate, has been doing it for ever since. How old were you when you started?
18, I bought my first property, yeah.
Wow. Okay, cool. And you started to focus on it as a career for the last maybe 4 or 5 years?
Probably 18 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Feels like 4 or 5 years, right? You see me so
Wow.
much on social media.
Yeah, it feels like 4 or 5 years. But in the last 18 months or since you started, you've, in my opinion, you've achieved quite a lot. More so than any other example that I've seen when people start. So well done. And yeah, so we'll talk about real estate. We'll talk about, a few things when it comes to buying a property. We'll talk about the market itself, but we may also talk about things outside of that too. So what I'm kind of interested in right off the bat is what really got you in real estate. Because when I look at people who work in real estate, whether buying or selling, a lot of them have that passion that you may not necessarily see in other industries and whatnot.
Yeah, so I think it wasn't so much what got me in real estate. Like, the way I looked at property when I bought my first one at 18 was probably around the stigma that as an Australian, you should buy your own home, right?
Yeah.
So it was getting kicked out of school at 15, going to work with my father in the construction industry, and then realizing that you have a limited earning capabilities in this industry. I didn't finish year 10. I have no qualifications. So the money that I'm earning, I have to do something with. So I saved from 15 to 18, got to 18, had enough for a deposit and thought, okay, well, now I should buy a property because that'll give me a head start on the rest of my friends. And that was literally the thought from it, was like, let's get a head start on life. As soon as you've bought a property, it's the biggest purchase you've done out of your life, and you can get that out of the way and then go and enjoy yourself. So I did that. And then obviously you've got skin in the game then, right? You've got a massive chunk of money sitting there, and you get more interested about it. So it was, from that point onwards, it was just fascination around real estate and property and investing and money and all the stuff that surrounds real estate. So it's just become a passion. And then obviously as a young guy or a young man, you see money and see what money can bring you, and then your eyes light up. You're like, wow, how can I get this? And property can bring you that. So that's what got me more ingrained in it. And from there onwards, mate, it was just my life, and it's been like that ever since.
So for everyone who preaches, do what you love and don't worry about the money, you just basically destroy that. But no, look, I get it. I also looked at things. I mean, I'm in tech, part tech, part marketing. And, I love what I do, but also it comes with, the aspirations of, at some point having a startup that can essentially become the next $10 billion company. Right. And so, the financial aspect, in real estate is definitely a motivator, but I'm sure, like you and other people, the passion and the fascination and the love for doing what you do definitely shows up pretty quick when you start doing it?
Of course, like money is just a part of the process, right? So it's what got me interested in property, because people usually do quite well out of property, but then once it got me interested, that's when the fascination began on how little people know about it, and how easily I picked it up and understood it, and I guess how much influence I had on people. Like when I talk about something, people were genuinely interested in what I had to say because they didn't know about it.
Yeah.
Whether that was family and friends, whether that was your Facebook friends, your Instagram, whatever it is, and then that just slowly grew, and it's still growing now, and it's still very, very early days in my journey.
Of course, yeah.
The passion is very much the driving factor now. Like it's definitely not the financial.
For someone who owns or started a company in this industry, a buyer's agency, right?
We like to call ourselves advocates.
Advocates, buyer's advocates.
Well, we have a buyer's advocate part of our business, but we're property advocates. So
who are flamingos at the same time?
Absolutely, yeah. Probably mainly flamingos. First flamingo, second advocates. Yeah. So it's not so much just about coming to us and let us buy your property. Like, we want to advise you on if you're selling a property, what you should do, who you should use. If you're renting, what you should do, where you should go, how you should negotiate.
Right. So not strictly buying.
We don't like to pigeonhole ourselves just into the buying space, which is, I think, that industry is starting to become saturated. With buyers agents as such. As like, come to us, let me go find your property. Yeah. So the business is called Henderson Advocacy, and we're essentially property advocates.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
For someone, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
24.
24. That's pretty, like, a great achievement to start, a company in the real estate sector at the age of 24. I don't know what I was doing at 24. I was probably just doing an average job. So yeah, well done. And one of the things that I also like about real estate is you touch everyone's life, right? Because everyone wants to buy, whether they have one or not, they wants to buy a property, right? For investment, to live in, whatever. And nothing could be more rewarding in terms of like personal achievements than having or getting the property that you want to get.
Exactly. And I forget it sometimes when I'm obviously work with this every single day, but like, buying property is one of the biggest things someone does in their life.
Yep.
Getting married, having a child, buying a home.
Property.
That's it. That's like the three pinnacles of life.
Yeah.
And we're a part of that journey. And sometimes you forget, we see it every single day. We see these numbers, we see the properties. Sometimes to us, it becomes a transaction, right? The selling agents are the same. They becomes a transaction. Yeah. We find someone an amazing property. They're super excited about it. We buy it. To them, it's an incredible achievement. To us, it's like, okay, that was a great transaction. On to the next one. And you forget that it's literally one of the biggest things in their life. So you feel pretty privileged to do that. But again, it's an industry that, I guess from the selling side, there's a lack of trust.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that at some point.
Yeah.
Why do you think there's a lack? I mean, there's a lack of trust in a lot of different industries. So, for example, in the marketing industry, and I'm sure you see that on social media quite a lot, and even on different ad platforms like Google Search and whatnot. When you look for a marketer or a marketing expert or a marketing guru, there's a lot of people selling the courses, selling themselves as, or promoting themselves as experts. And I'm sure there are a lot of experts out there. I'm not shitting on anyone, but some people talk the talk and they don't deliver. So a lot of businesses have learned the hard way that not everyone is trustworthy, not because necessarily that they are trying to lie or fake anything, but maybe they overestimated what they can do. And so there's a lack of trust in a lot of industries, like marketing, for example. Why is there lack of trust in real estate?
I think the biggest thing is because it's such a big ticket item. There's a lot of money at stake, right? So whether you're a selling agent and you're getting a fee, whether you're a buyer's agent and you're getting a fee, like the purchase prices of properties are substantial, and the fees people earn off those are also quite substantial. So money is a major driver for some people. So there's a lot of real estate agents out there and have been over many, many years that have been driven by financial reward, and I'm sure have done some bad things to people, right? And that creates a lack of trust. And it's a generalized statement because there's some really genuine people out there who genuinely want the best for people. But there's a lot of people that have done the wrong thing, and
Of course.
and that's why. And I think the driving factor behind people doing the wrong thing is the financial reward of it.
Yep.
Is that there's so much money at stake, you know? Sometimes these agents are making hundreds of thousands of dollars on a transaction.
Yep.
And if that sort of money's at stake, it makes people have clouded decision making.
Exactly.
And
there might be conflicts of interest.
And they do the wrong thing, and that loses people's trust. And because, like you said, every single person at some point in their life is touched by real estate, whether it be a rental, whether it be a purchase, whether it be sale. And so it's a topic that everyone talks about.
Yep.
And when people talk about something a lot and there's mistrust, it can get spread really quickly.
Yep. So if I were to work with a real estate agent, whether on the buying or the selling side, besides my gut feeling, besides doing a bit of due diligence, are there any, having been working in the industry, you probably know a few things that you would look at to ascertain whether this is the person I want to work with. What would those be?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things is track record, right? If someone's dominating their segment of the marketplace, there's a reason for that. You know, people are giving people the biggest asset to sell because they're not doing a good job. So it's understanding why someone is at the top of their game, and if they are, it's a pretty safe bet, right? But again, because it is such an emotional transaction, a lot of people go with someone they connect with. So that's why there's agents that sell hundreds of properties a year, and that's why there's agents who sell 5 or 6 or 10 properties a year. And that's because the people selling 5, 6 or 10 are probably selling properties for family and friends that genuinely trust them and have a connection with them and want to help them out. But I guess if I was a seller in the marketplace wanting to get the highest price for my property, you want to go to the person who's got the most amount of buyers in the marketplace, who's generally the person who sells the most amount of property, who has the best processes, and who has the best track record and testimonials. If they're selling 100, 200, 300 properties a year, they should have 90% of those people saying great things about them. You're not going to get every single person in life saying you're the best, but you've got a 90% strike rate. It's pretty good.
And are there specific questions or things you can directly ask that can kind of help that decision?
Yeah, look, I think a big thing people get wrong with whether it be selling or buying is they are so worried about the small numbers. So like vendors will get a selling agent in, they'll get 2 or 3, and then they make their decision based around who's got the cheapest fee. And that just blows my mind. Sometimes these people are selling assets worth millions and millions of dollars, and they're making a decision based on an agent having a fee at 2% and an agent having a fee on 2.2%.
Wow.
Which is like such a minuscule amount of money in the grand scheme of things. But they just make the decision based around that. So I guess questions to ask, every single agent's going to be different. Every single scenario is going to be different. Like I said, you want to understand what their track record is. You want to see their last 20 property sales and talk to those last 20 clients that they've had and understand what they did wrong and what they did right and what they liked and disliked. But don't get caught up in, he's going to do it for $10,000 cheaper selling my $2 million home, because
it's going to end up costing you money.
It's going to cost you a lot more than $10,000 generally. You know, if someone's going to win your business because they're going to do it cheaper, you firstly have to think about the type of salesman they are. And secondly, you got to think if they're doing it cheaper, they obviously don't value their time as highly as the other person. and don't rate themselves as good as a practitioner as the other person as well, because they're willing to do it cheaper
Yeah.
just to win the business.
So I know one of the things that people talk a lot about and don't like to talk a lot about is trying to understand where the market is going, predicting, and all that stuff. And personally, I'm not a fan of trying to predict, because I'm a big believer that predicting is not always guaranteed, and that the market, even in stock markets and all that stuff, you got people who look at the technical, they call them themselves technicians. So they look at all these different graphs and trends and trying to find out. There are people that look at fundamentals, what's happening in the economy on a macro level, what are the new rules and regulations and all that stuff, or things are happening in the world. I guess my question is, let's first a little bit unpack what happened since the pandemic, how things went, and moving forward in the next 18 months, not predict, but what do you advise, or maybe a few things that you foresee happening that can help people understand how to go about buying or selling?
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't predict anything, and anyone who does predict is literally pulling numbers out of the air that have so many variables attached to them, and doing the prediction because they have a vested interest. That is the only reason. No one predicts something for their own self-benefit, because deep down they know they have no idea on what's going to happen. And there was so many people, whether they were the top writers at the AFR, whether they were in the Daily Telegraph, whether they were on Daily Mail, or they were in some of the biggest investment firms in the world, all making predictions on what was going to happen when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And the reality was, not one of them knew. Not one of them, because they couldn't predict COVID happening. So how are they going to predict what was going to happen post-COVID?
Exactly.
So, look, I don't predict anything. I think history is a really good indicator of what's going to happen in the future. It's really hard to do that with shares and business, because things change in the world so rapidly, and a business that's relevant right now literally may be irrelevant in 3 years' time.
Yep.
So it's really hard to do that with business. But with property, not much changes with property. People don't change that they do not like going to the beach anymore, and that they don't like being close to public transport, and they don't like being close to the major CBDs, because that's where all of the lifestyle and the work is. So I guess what's going to happen over the next 18 months, I don't really care, and neither should anyone else. Like, you should never sell or buy a property if you're trying to time things to make money. Like, you should be doing it for a reason. If you're buying for a long-term hold, or you're buying, like, if it's an investment, or if it's a home, you're buying because you need more space, or you want to be close to schools, or you need to be closer to family. Like, there has to be a reason for you to do it. Like,
that's to live.
And if you're investing, what is the reason you are investing? If the reason you are investing is to buy a property right now and sell it in 18 months' time and make a quick buck, you're in the wrong game. It's not going to happen.
So help me understand this. There are people who, I guess, make a living, or part of how they make money is to sell the idea, whether it works or not, to a lot of people that, in 3 years' time or 2 years' time, or like in a relatively short period of time, that they can enter the real estate investment world and just kill it, right? Are there specific things that you can do that can actually make that happen? I know you said that, you don't try to time the market, and if you're looking to invest to, get out in 18 months, is probably not the right thing to do. What is your take on, people who try to say, hey, 3 years time, you'll end up, owning 20 properties somehow?
Yeah. Like I said at the start, people who do these things have vested interest in doing them. So you have to think realistically about things. If it was so easy and you could really get into the marketplace, acquire a huge portfolio and retire in 10 years, why isn't everybody doing it? Because it's not possible. Like, the 1% of people can do that. And the reason the 1% of people can do that is because they have really good businesses or really high paying jobs that allows them to borrow the money from the bank to then go and buy the property that can give them the passive income stream.
The cash cow.
That's right. Like that's the only reason you can do it. It's the hardest thing at the moment when buying a property, whether it be to live in or to invest, is getting the money from the banks. And the banks are not going to keep lending you endless amounts of money if you are on a fixed income and that income is not increasing rapidly.
Yep. In proportionate to the expanding lending or loans
so
that you're getting.
In proportion to the debt that you're carrying.
Exactly.
So if you've got a $150,000 salary or you've got a $200,000 family income, that is only going to get you so much money from the bank. And income growth is at almost the lowest it has ever been in history right now. And if income growth isn't going up and you're only earning X amount of money and you can only get so many promotions, you have to think logically, why is the bank going to keep lending me money if I can't pay that money back?
Exactly.
So yeah, it's not, look, I'm not going to say it's not possible because there's people out there that have done it, but it's extremely hard to get into property, especially as a novice. And make a lot of money very quickly. The people who do the best in property are the people who buy really good assets and go and sit on the beach and drink Corona, come back in 6 years' time, buy another one. And go and
Did you say Corona?
Corona, yeah.
Okay.
Or cruises.
The beer.
The beer.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not the disease.
Yeah, okay.
You look at one of the richest people in property in Australia, Harry Triguboff, for example, who owns Meriton. He hasn't made money overnight. Like, sure, he might be worth $16 billion now, but he's worth $16 billion now because he's just taken a lot of really little steps over his 87 or 90 year.
80. How old is the man
he's
right now?
He's almost 90.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. You might get there faster, Jack.
Like that's the reason he's worth $16 billion is because he just has taken his time and done things properly and not trying to make money overnight. And it compounds and it compounds and it compounds. And then another great man you've got on the wall, Warren Buffett, is exactly the same. He made 99% of his wealth after he was 50 years old.
Well, pretty much all the legends I have in the studio here, they haven't made... It was never an overnight success.
Well, look, you've got Mark Zuckerberg is the 1%. Like, he made billions of dollars, and he's is he 30 years old yet? I'm not too sure, but
he's 30. He's about my age, 34. I think,
but that is such a minority. That's what people fascinate about.
0.1%.
It's like, I'm 27 this year, and I haven't made $10 million. And it's like, well, of course you haven't, because the people who have are the smallest minority of the population. And that's who you're aspiring to be like. Where if they aspired to be like the general population, and not aspired, but like looked at the general population, they'd be doing just fine.
If you're making 50K as an annual income, you're still one of the top. Don't call me on the math, but probably in the top 1 or 2% when you look at yourself in comparison to the rest of the world.
Of course.
Like the 8 billion people. But we never compare ourselves a fair comparison. You shouldn't compare yourself anyway. You should just enjoy what you have and, aspire to things that are not super related to, I'm not doing as good as, this guy or this person, whatever. But if you actually compare yourself properly, a lot of people will find themselves, in the top 1 or 2%.
Well, they are 110%. Like it's... Of course, like you can't compare yourself to someone living in the middle of Africa because your cost of living to someone compared to someone living in the middle of Africa is very, very different, and the luxuries that you've become accustomed to are very, very different. Although, you're still, hypothetically speaking, one of the richest people in the world.
Yeah, and compared to our parents and grandparents and everyone, like historically speaking, we are, we keep becoming more wealthy. We're wealthier than we were before.
Of course we are, yeah. And that's a big thing for me is like generational wealth. You know,
Yeah.
my parents have worked extremely hard to get where they are right now. And my parents aren't uber wealthy, but they're doing well for themselves.
Yeah.
And they started with literally zero, like literally, you know, their parents were on like welfare.
Yeah. Zero is a minus.
Yeah.
Probably.
And they've built to where they are right now. And then my thing is like, let's take the foundation that they've given me.
Yeah.
And let's
run with that.
Exactly. And then I'll leave a foundation for my kids, or if I have kids, or you know, other family members, to then again build off that.
Yeah. Funnily enough, I was looking at
spill water.
Good thing we have water, not coffee or anything else. I was looking at some of the most expensive properties in Australia. One of them, a lot of them are in Point Piper. One of them is, I think it was $100 million, owned by, I want to say the name right.
John Simons?
That owns or co-owns Atlassian, the tech company.
Yeah.
Scott Mike
Cannon-Brookes. Yeah.
Mike Cannon-Brookes.
And Scott Farquhar. They've literally both bought next to each other.
Yeah. That was bought in 2018, wasn't it?
Yeah, one paid 100, and then which they bought the Fairwater estate, and then one of them paid
I think you need to talk
high 70s or early 80 millions. I can't really remember now.
Yeah.
Next door to each other. In Point Piper.
How long does it take to close a deal like that?
Couldn't tell you, my friend. I haven't closed one.
You wouldn't be here if you did.
Of course I would be. I mean, to be honest, probably not that long. Like,
really?
They would be, they're decisive people.
The buyer.
Well, if you've got a company that's worth $14 billion, you haven't got that company because you're indecisive.
Sure.
So I reckon they would have been very decisive. Mike Cannon-Brookes actually buys a hell of a lot of property.
Really? Okay.
Lots.
Investing.
Yeah, he's worth $7 billion, so you know it's just a tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's constantly buying property in Sydney. Constantly.
Yeah.
You'll see him at open for inspections. I think one of his most recent acquisitions was up. I can't think of the suburb. It's near Palm Beach.
Okay.
But there's a little place that you can get to only by boat.
Right.
And he just bought something there. They actually just bought Jennifer Hawkins' place as well.
Okay.
She sold in Newport for $20 odd million.
So he's cleaning up the city.
That's what I like to look at these people. If someone who's worth $8 billion is confident enough to go and buy hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Sydney real estate, why is someone who is spending $1.5 million or $1 million or $5 million so skeptical of what's going to happen? Like someone who's got, he would have the best advisors, the best brokers, the best of everything, and they're helping him make decisions, and he's making decisions to purchase this type of real estate in the middle of a pandemic.
Yep. But like you said, he got people that give him the best insight. If I were to, and this is where you come in, and the Henderson advocates, the Henderson Advocacy or advocates come in, is to give people the right insights. But if I'm buying a $1 million house,
but regardless if you have the right insights on it, if you're buying in blue chip locations, and there is someone like Mike Cannon-Brookes buying similar property in similar areas, that's a good sign. You know, like these people are trying to time the marketplace and go, we're going to wait for the JobKeeper and JobSeeker payments to stop, and we're going to get it at the bottom.
Yeah.
If it was that easy, do you not think someone like he would be doing it?
Yeah.
He has the resources and the money.
Yeah.
He doesn't care. He's buying in the middle of a pandemic. He's buying in the top of the marketplace. He's buying at the bottom of the marketplace.
Yeah.
He just buys.
No, I'm with you.
He has a long-term view, and he understands that, unfortunately, they're not making any more land in the eastern suburbs and the North Shore and the inner west.
You can't go in the ocean. So, couple of questions. How badly did the market get impacted over the last 6 months? And if it hasn't, because I haven't been keeping up, and if it hasn't, are you surprised or not surprised that it behaved that way?
I'll only talk about the marketplaces that I physically work in myself, because I don't look at Australia as one marketplace. There's so many different sub-markets inside of those marketplaces, and they all perform very, very differently because of different reasons. They all have different drivers. So if we're talking Sydney's inner ring, and we're talking Newcastle, which is the markets that I know very well. Has it been affected over the last 6 months? It was. That is now gone. We are now. It's gone. It's no longer here. We are in a marketplace that I believe is stronger than it was prior to COVID.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So there's less stock. There's more buyers, and prices are I believe more competitive than they were pre-COVID. There was a window there now, looking back in hindsight, from when it was announced that this is COVID and this is what we're predicting the world's going to do in the next 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, when there was so much uncertainty and so much fear. People were going, I'm just going to sell because my property is going to be worth less in a year's time. And that was the opportunity. Now looking back on it, there was like 6 or 8 weeks there where vendors that were on the market, all of the buyers disappeared, because they were like, why am I going to buy your property in the middle of a pandemic? So those people were like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Because they may have bought something, or they've already made a commitment. And then, so those people you were buying things for 10 or 15% potentially less than what you would have bought it for
now,
4 weeks prior to that, or right now. But yeah, they're no longer here.
So there's no more panic. There's no more.
Look, there's still people out there trying to predict shit, for sure. Like, there's a lot of those buyers. Oh, we're just going to wait and see what happens and wait and see what happens. But there's always those people. As soon as COVID's gone, there'll be a new thing. Like,
You got to look at the human psyche. I think if we got a second or third or fourth wave or whatever, the panic. I mean, God forbid, but let's say we have another one of those waves. The panic that people had the first time will never be the same. Like, no one is going to panic the same way. No one is going to be scared the same way.
Well, we've seen it in Melbourne. Melbourne had another wave, and it was no panic. People just got the shits. Got locked in their house. And I'm like, fuck.
Yeah. It's easing over there too. So things are
easy. Yeah, but it's gone, man. Like, there's COVID was a thing that was. It is no longer here.
Cool. And one of the things that, if anyone who's watching who has never entered the real estate world, has never bought a property, or maybe bought one, still in the early stages, and wants to, get into it a little bit more, what do you suggest people do? I know it's a very broad question.
Yeah. So, just so I'm clear, people who have not bought something or have only bought one property, what advice would I give those people?
Yeah.
Look, it's a good question. I think the biggest thing is really understanding the marketplace you're buying into. Don't, like I said before, there's so many different sub-markets and they all perform very differently. So don't look at a generalized statement online or generalized data online that really doesn't give you an indication of what's going on in the marketplace you're buying into. And then not only the marketplace, but the segment of that marketplace from a price point and property type that you're buying into. Because if we look at the eastern suburbs, for example, there is a marketplace for $7 to $10 million homes. There's a marketplace for $7 to $10 million apartments. There's a marketplace for $5 to $7 million homes. There's a market for $3 to $5 million homes. There's a market for a $1.5 million apartment. It's a market for, like, there is so many different marketplaces, and they all have a different buyer, and they all perform differently at different points in time because of those buyers' circumstances, right?
Yep.
So it's really it's about understanding that the micro of what is happening in your marketplace and that the segment of that marketplace, and becoming an expert in it. Like I said it earlier, it's the biggest financial decision you'll make ever in your life, unless you acquire a company worth tens of millions of dollars, but it's very unlikely.
Yep.
So why would you not spend the time to educate yourself on that? Obviously don't go that deep into it that you get analysis paralysis and don't do anything. But like educate yourself around what's going on. Spend some time, get educated, and when you do, be a decision maker. You know, don't go out there and go, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I'm going to pay 2% too much, or like, because the indecisiveness is costing you more money and more time than actually making a decision.
Yep. And in terms of research, I'm assuming you're talking not just about going online and, you know, checking out different, but also talking to people.
Yeah, online research is one part of it. Like, go out on foot in the marketplace and see what's happening. Like, identify the kinds of properties that you're looking at and see how many buyers are at those properties. See what they sold for at auction. You know, see how many days on market they are. Like, and then also understand why properties that are similar to what you're looking at aren't selling. Like, what are the things that are drawing buyers away from those properties? You know. So it's about understanding both segments and again, making a decision. Like, that's the biggest thing, because making a decision is going to make you a lot more money than not making a decision because you're scared of maybe spending a little bit too much or overpaying.
Yeah, it's the cost of not entering, right?
Exactly, And I've actually been saying it a lot recently with people going, oh, Jack, what's going to happen with COVID and blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, I don't know what's going to happen. But all I know is if I was to give you a property right now, go back to the GFC, the middle of the GFC, when everyone thought the world was going to end, and say, do you want to buy this property? You would not say no. And that's what you got to look at right now. This is not going to hang around.
You got to take a step back to take 2 or 3 steps forward.
Exactly, you know, like, that's such a good state. Like, it's really good to put yourself in that position. Would you buy a property right now in the middle of the GFC? Like, go back 10 years, 2008. Imagine
absolutely
you
would.
Exactly right. And you're going to be saying exactly the same thing in 10 years' time. Because nothing's changing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So lastly, for anyone watching who wants to work with yourself or, you know, with
Very
you guys,
expensive.
I think you kind of established that through
these suits. Flamingo suits are not cheap, let me tell you.
These suits are handmade.
They are.
Custom tailored, handmade.
Bespoke corner tailor is actually very good. Go in there and ask
Where's the flamingo on it? Do you have a... Oh, there you go. This is actually for real.
It's flamingo pink, and then I actually have under my collar, it says the flamingo.
Wow. You're taking it to the next level, my friend.
I've actually got a suit getting made currently. Do you know Conor McGregor's Fuck You suit?
Yes, seen it before.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm getting a pinstripe suit in navy blue that has a flamingo as the pinstripe.
You're definitely a real estate guy, man.
I know.
That's awesome. No, well done. So do you not want people to reach out?
Of course I do. I'm not really expensive. It's a joke. Look, on my socials, Jack Henderson, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn.
Can you spell it? Your Instagram?
JackHenderson. Jack.
One word.
Jack C. Henderson. Yeah.
Beautiful. And your website is going to be up soon?
It's up. It's a landing page. It's henderson.com.au.
Beautiful.
One thing we should touch on, how expensive are domain names?
I mean, I was surprised when I saw your domain.
It was
I did not expect you to get that domain.
It took me...
It was expensive because that is a name that someone back in the day said, one day a guy or a girl with a Henderson last name would definitely want to buy that domain.
Well, they found that person because I bought it and it cost me a lot of money.
Wow, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it's really cool though.
That's cool. No, it's beautiful. Yeah. Henderson.com.au. I like it. Well, it's been a pleasure
I've
to have you.
I've enjoyed this chat. It's been very casual. It feels very like
groovy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I want people to
get
feel.
Like cigars and shit. Cigars, some booze.
I mean,
and then have a chat for like 3 hours.
Dude, I might give that a go. Not a fan of cigar that much, but I will have one if I'm hanging out with someone who does. But maybe like, you know, a scotch and, you know, a longer conversation. Why not?
I think it's great.
I mean, I started this and my intention is for this to be more a business podcast. But maybe eventually it will go outside of that too, and be more like
I think
into
that
other topics.
a business podcast is like, there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of people talking about business, but I think if you were to talk about business in an environment like this, where it's casual,
Yep.
chat shit,
Yep.
undo your buttons,
Yep.
Friday afternoon,
Yep.
you drink some booze,
Exactly.
talk about real world problems.
100%. Well, if you did enjoy this, I'd love to have you again.
Man, I really did. Thank you very much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, mate.